The whisper came before the scream. No one else heard the ancient voice echo across the silent mountain. But if Selena spoke the warning aloud before the lunar coronation ended, every alpha in the kingdom would call her cursed. If she remained silent, the moon had already promised that blood would stain the sacred throne before sunrise. Before destiny reveals why the most feared woman in every werewolf kingdom was never insane, but chosen by the ancient moon itself, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us where you are listening from. Now, let us return to the night when the moon whispered a forgotten truth. Silver light poured across the towering temple of the first moon. Thousands of wolves filled the marble courtyard. Tonight marked the lunar coronation. The night a new Alpha King would renew the ancient covenant beneath the full moon. Hidden among the crowd stood Selena Ashwyn. She wore a faded blue-gray dress. Her chestnut hair danced softly in the mountain wind. To everyone around her, she was simply the strange girl who talked to voices no one else could hear. Then the whisper returned, clearer, closer. The crown remembers what the kingdoms have forgotten. Selena's breath caught. Her silver blue eyes searched the brilliant moon overhead. The voice had followed her since childhood. Gentle, ancient, never wrong. She closed her eyes. "Who are you?" Only silence answered. Far above the temple steps, Alpha King Orion Blackthorn stepped beneath the moonlight as the High Elder lifted the ceremonial crown. The kingdom celebrated. Drums echoed through the valley. No one noticed Selena slowly turning pale. The whisper came again, stronger than ever before. "Find the king, before the moon begins to weep." Long before the kingdoms feared her, they pitied her. Before they pitied her, they laughed at her. And before they laughed, they simply stopped listening. Selena Ashwyn could not remember the first time she heard the whisper. She only remembered believing every child heard it. When she was 5 years old, she pointed toward the full moon and smiled. "The lady is singing tonight." Her mother froze. "What lady?" "The one inside the moon." The little girl answered so naturally that no one thought much of it. Children imagined impossible things every day. But the whispers never stopped. As the years passed, the mysterious voice grew clearer. Sometimes it warned her of storms before the clouds appeared. Sometimes it led her to lost travelers wandering through dangerous forests. Once, it told her exactly where a frightened little boy had fallen into a hidden ravine. The village found him alive. They called it luck. Selena knew it had been something else. Not everyone believed her gift was harmless. The village healer crossed herself whenever Selena entered. Some elders whispered that the girl had been touched by an ancient curse. Others claimed dark spirits had stolen her mind before birth. Children copied what they heard from their parents. They stopped inviting her to games. They moved away whenever she approached. Some even covered their ears, pretending they could hear invisible voices too. Their laughter echoed long after Selena walked away. Her father died when she was 12. Her mother passed away only 2 winters later after a long illness. No relatives came. No distant family appeared. The small cottage beside the pine forest became painfully quiet. From that day forward, Selena survived alone. Every morning began before sunrise. She carried woven baskets deep into the mountains. Wild moon herbs, silver fern, frost blossoms, crystal sage, plants few others recognized. She gathered them carefully, never taking more than nature willingly offered. By afternoon, she sold healing bundles in neighboring villages. Some people quietly thanked her. Others refused to touch anything her hands had prepared. "If the moon speaks to her," one merchant muttered, "perhaps something darker listens back." Selena never argued. She simply accepted fewer coins and walked home before sunset. Loneliness became routine. The silence between people hurt more than the whispers inside her mind. Yet she refused to let bitterness take root. Whenever elderly villagers struggled through heavy snow, she carried their firewood. When children became sick, she left medicine outside their doors without revealing who delivered it. If hungry travelers reached the village after dark, fresh bread often appeared beside the church steps before dawn. No one knew where it came from. Only Selena, and perhaps the moon. One cold evening, a frightened wolf pup limped toward her cottage. Its front leg had been caught beneath falling stones. The tiny creature growled weakly as Selena approached. "I know," she whispered softly. "You're scared." She carefully wrapped the injured leg with clean cloth and herbal paste. The pup slowly relaxed, then curled beside the fireplace. For 3 days, she cared for it. On the 4th morning, it disappeared back into the forest. Several weeks later, a full-grown silver wolf silently appeared outside her home. The great animal bowed its head once, then vanished among the trees. Selena smiled. Some kindness required no words. The whispers changed with every passing season. Sometimes they became songs, sometimes prayers, sometimes fragments of conversations spoken in a language no living wolf remembered. Late one night, while sitting beneath the full moon, Selena finally gathered enough courage to ask aloud, "What do you want from me?" The answer arrived immediately. Not through her ears, through her heart. "Remember." Only one word. Nothing more. Remember what? She did not know. Days later. While exploring abandoned ruins high above the valley, Selena discovered a weathered stone circle hidden beneath tangled vines. Ancient runes covered every pillar. Most had faded beyond recognition. Only one inscription remained untouched by time. She gently brushed away centuries of dust. The silver letters glowed beneath the moonlight. When the forgotten covenant is broken, only the one who hears the moon may restore what pride has destroyed. A chill traveled through her body. She whispered the words again. The forgotten covenant. She had never heard those words before. Yet somehow, they felt older than memory itself, unseen by Selena. Another pair of eyes watched from the shadows. An elderly monk wearing faded lunar robes quietly observed the young woman reading the ancient inscription. He did not interrupt. When she finally left the ruins, he stepped toward the weathered pillar. His aged hands trembled. "So," he whispered, "it is finally happening." For decades he had protected these forgotten ruins. Waiting. Praying. Believing the prophecy would one day awaken again. Now, the moon whisperer had returned. Far away inside Moonfall Castle, preparations for the Lunar Coronation continued through the night. Royal servants polished silver banners. Priests rehearsed sacred ceremonies. Elite warriors guarded every entrance. Alpha King Orion Blackthorn stood alone upon the highest balcony overlooking his kingdom. His trusted commander, Commander Cassian Wolf, approached quietly. "You should rest, Your Majesty." Orion kept watching the enormous full moon. "I cannot." Cassian frowned. "You sense something." Orion nodded slowly. "For 3 nights, my wolf has been restless. It keeps searching. For what? I do not know." The answer frustrated him. Alpha instincts never awakened without purpose. Yet every instinct inside him insisted that something ancient had already entered his kingdom. Across the border, High Regent Malrek Voss met secretly with Alpha King Kalor Dreadfang inside a candlelit war chamber. Ancient maps covered the massive stone table. Malrek unrolled a brittle parchment older than either kingdom. Its faded illustration showed a woman standing beneath the full moon. Silver light flowed from the sky into her open hands. Kalor studied the drawing. "You truly believe she exists?" Malrek smiled coldly. "I do not believe. I remember." He tapped a line written beneath the illustration. "The Moon Whisperer. The last bridge between the ancient moon spirit and our world." Kalor crossed his arms. "And if she returns?" Malrek's expression hardened. "Then every throne built upon forgotten lies will fall." He slowly rolled the parchment closed. "Find her. Before the new Alpha King does." Outside, clouds drifted away from the full moon. Far below, Selena looked toward the silver sky once more. The whisper returned, gentle, patient, unchanging. "The king is closer than you think." She did not understand. Not yet. But somewhere beyond the mountains, destiny had already begun walking toward her. The scent reached him before he saw her. Not the fragrance of wildflowers, not mountain rain. Something older, something his wolf had searched for without rest. If Alpha King Orion ignored the impossible pull drawing him toward the northern valley before the lunar coronation concluded, the ancient moon spirit warned that the forgotten covenant would remain broken, and every werewolf kingdom would begin its slow collapse beneath the next blood moon. Morning sunlight spilled across the mountain roads leading toward the temple of the first moon. Pilgrims traveled from every allied kingdom. Silver banners fluttered in the crisp wind. Priests chanted ancient hymns. Warriors lined the stone pathways. Every eye remained fixed upon the coming coronation. Every eye, except Orion's. His attention drifted again and again toward the northern forest. His wolf paced restlessly inside him. Find her. The command grew stronger with every passing minute. Commander Cassian guided his horse alongside the king's. You have been distracted since dawn, Orion answered honestly. My wolf refuses to be still. Cassian smiled. Perhaps your fated mate has finally entered your territory. Orion almost dismissed the thought. Almost. The mate bond was legendary. Many Alpha Kings lived their entire lives without finding the one soul created for them. Yet something deep within him whispered that today would not be ordinary. Several miles away, Selena quietly crossed a narrow stone bridge carrying 2 baskets filled with medicinal herbs. The villagers preparing for the coronation greeted one another with excitement. Few acknowledged her. She had grown accustomed to that. As she stepped beneath an ancient oak tree, the familiar whisper returned, soft, gentle, clear. "Walk toward the temple." Selena stopped. "I do not belong there." The answer arrived immediately. "You belonged there before the kingdoms forgot your name." Her heart quickened. She had never heard the voice sound so sorrowful. Against every instinct telling her to remain hidden, she continued toward the temple. Each step felt strangely inevitable, as though invisible threads woven centuries earlier were quietly guiding her home. The courtyard overflowed with nobles, warriors, merchants, and priests. The lunar coronation had begun. Silver flames burned within enormous ceremonial braziers. The High Elder raised an ancient crystal staff toward the full moon still visible in the daylight sky. "The covenant shall be renewed." Thousands knelt. Selena remained near the back of the crowd. She never intended to draw attention. Destiny had other plans. At the very instant Orion stepped onto the sacred platform, the wind shifted. A single breath. That was all it took. Then he caught her scent. Everything stopped. The voices of the crowd faded. The music disappeared. Even time itself seemed to hesitate. Wild mountain rain, moonflowers blooming beneath fresh snow, ancient forests after midnight. No perfume, no flower, no memory compared to it. His wolf surged forward with overwhelming certainty. Mate. The word thundered through every corner of his soul. Electric warmth exploded through his body. His heartbeat doubled. Every instinct screamed to protect, to reach, to never let her disappear again. Orion turned. Across hundreds of people, he saw her. Chestnut brown hair, simple blue-gray dress, silver blue eyes reflecting the light of the moon. She looked directly toward him. The moment their eyes met, Selena gasped. An invisible current passed between them. Warm, powerful, ancient. She pressed one trembling hand against her chest. "What is happening?" Her heartbeat echoed inside her ears. Somewhere deep within, she felt an enormous wolf purr with quiet recognition. Not threatening, not frightening. Welcoming. The whisper returned. Only now, it no longer sounded distant. It seemed to surround both of them. 2 souls, 1 promise. Orion stepped down from the ceremonial platform, ignoring confused priests, ignoring shocked nobles, ignoring centuries of royal protocol. Commander Cassian called after him. "Your Majesty!" The king never slowed. His eyes never left Selena. The crowd instinctively parted. Silence spread through the courtyard. People watched in complete confusion as the Alpha King walked directly toward the quiet herbal healer everyone had spent years avoiding. Selena considered running. Instead, she stood perfectly still. Something inside her whispered, "Stay." Only a few feet separated them. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. The mate bond continued awakening. Tiny silver sparks danced briefly through the air between their hands. Neither had touched the other, yet both felt the same gentle warmth. Orion finally broke the silence. "What is your name?" "Selena." Her voice was calm despite the storm inside her heart. "And yours?" A faint smile touched Orion's face. "I believe you already know." She lowered her eyes. "Yes, I do." Then it happened. Selena suddenly stiffened. Her pupils widened. Silver light flooded both eyes. The breeze stopped. The ceremonial flames bent toward her without burning. Priests stepped backward. The High Elder stared in disbelief. Ancient lunar symbols slowly appeared beneath Selena's feet, glowing softly across the white marble. The whisper transformed into a voice, not heard with ears. Heard by every soul standing inside the temple. "The forgotten daughter has returned." Gasps echoed everywhere. Several elders immediately fell to their knees. One elderly priest whispered through tears, "It cannot be." The radiant voice continued, "The covenant was broken by pride. The kingdoms divided what the moon made one. The bridge has awakened." Selena trembled. "I cannot do this." "You have the wrong person." The answer came gently. "You have always been the right one." Orion stepped closer. Without thinking, he carefully took her trembling hands. The instant their skin touched, another surge of energy spread across the temple. Golden light rose from Orion. Silver light flowed from Selena. The two streams intertwined above them, forming the luminous outline of an enormous celestial wolf beneath the full moon. No one spoke. No one moved. Every alpha present instinctively lowered their head. Not before a king. Before something infinitely older. The High Elder slowly approached. His voice shook. "I have spent my entire life studying the First Covenant." He looked at Selena with awe. "The legends were true. You are the last moon whisperer." He turned toward Orion. "And she is your fated mate." Before Orion could answer, a frightened royal scout raced into the temple courtyard. He dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty! Armies from Bloodfang Kingdom have crossed the Eastern Pass." Another messenger arrived seconds later. "They are not alone. The High Regent's banners march beside them." Commander Cassian immediately reached for his sword. "They came for the coronation." The High Elder slowly looked toward Selena. "No." His expression grew grave. "They came for her." Far beyond the mountains, war horns echoed across the valleys. The hunt for the Moon Whisperer had begun. The first war horn echoed before anyone drew a sword. Not from within Moonfall Kingdom, from beyond its eastern walls. If the temple of the first moon fell before the ancient covenant could be restored, every Alpha Kingdom would descend into endless war before the next full moon. The peaceful ceremony dissolved into chaos. Silver banners snapped violently in the rising wind. Priests hurried frightened children toward the inner sanctuary. Nobles abandoned their ceremonial seats. Warriors reached instinctively for their weapons. Commander Cassian's voice cut through the confusion. "Royal Guard, protect the temple!" Hundreds of elite wolves immediately formed defensive lines around the sacred courtyard. At the top of the marble staircase, High Regent Malrek Voss appeared. He was not alone. Beside him stood Alpha King Kalor Dreadfang. Behind them, thousands of armored warriors filled the mountain pass. Black banners, crimson standards, steel glimmering beneath the afternoon sun. This had never been a diplomatic visit. It was an invasion. Malrek slowly removed his gloves. "Your Majesty." His voice remained perfectly calm. "You have unknowingly placed the future of every kingdom in danger." Orion answered without hesitation. "The only danger I see is standing before me." Kalor laughed. "The Moon Whisperer belongs to no kingdom. She belongs to history, and history will obey us." Selena quietly stepped forward. "You do not understand." Kalor's expression darkened. "Oh, I understand perfectly. You hear the ancient moon. You restore forgotten truths. And when forgotten truths return, kings lose power." The whisper returned inside Selena's heart. Gentle, steady. "Do not fear." She closed her eyes briefly. "I am trying." Malrek raised one hand. "Seize her." The command echoed across the battlefield. Dozens of elite hunters surged toward the temple steps. Their movements were disciplined, calculated. Every soldier had trained specifically for this mission: capture, not kill. Before the first hunter reached Selena, Orion stepped between them. His golden eyes ignited. "No one," his voice became deeper, older, "will touch my mate." The words rolled across the temple like distant thunder. Every allied wolf instinctively bowed their head. Even enemies hesitated. The authority inside the Alpha King's voice felt ancient. Kalor drew his massive sword. "So, you finally admit it. She is your weakness." Orion slowly unsheathed his own blade. Its polished steel reflected the silver moon still hanging above the temple. "No," he answered quietly. "She is my greatest strength." The first clash erupted. Steel met steel. The impact echoed through the mountains. Kalor attacked with overwhelming force. Each strike carried enough power to fracture stone. Orion answered with calm precision. He wasted no movement, no anger, only absolute control. Meanwhile, Commander Cassian led the Royal Guard into formation. "Hold the eastern stairs!" Shield walls locked together. Archers climbed the temple towers. Healers moved the elderly and children into protected chambers beneath the sanctuary. Every defender understood one truth. If Selena fell, everything fell. Selena remained near the sacred altar. Not because she feared battle, because the whispers had become stronger than ever. Ancient voices surrounded her. Thousands, perhaps millions. None sounded hostile. They sounded hopeful. She pressed one hand against the glowing marble. "What do you want me to do?" The answer came immediately. "Listen." Suddenly, the temple floor shimmered. Ancient lunar symbols spread beneath Selena's feet like flowing silver rivers. Every rune carved into the sanctuary walls awakened. Soft light illuminated forgotten inscriptions untouched for centuries. The High Elder stared in astonishment. "The temple, it remembers her." Malrek saw the glowing symbols. His composure finally cracked. "No. This cannot happen." He pointed toward Selena. Bring her to me! A second wave of soldiers rushed forward. They never reached her. Orion's wolf awakened completely. Golden light burst across his armor. Ancient markings spread over his arms. Behind him rose the magnificent spectral form of an enormous alpha wolf formed from moonlight and living flame. Its eyes glowed like twin suns. Its silent roar shook the valley. Many enemy soldiers froze where they stood. Others dropped their weapons in terror. Kalor refused to retreat. He charged directly toward Orion. Their swords collided again. The shockwave rippled across the temple courtyard. Stone cracked beneath their feet. Nearby banners tore free into the sky. The second exchange came faster. The third faster still. Neither ordinary warriors nor frightened nobles could fully follow the duel. Only flashes of silver, golden light, and impossible speed. At the edge of the battlefield, a frightened young servant stumbled into open ground. She had become separated from the other civilians. An enemy hunter spotted her immediately. He rushed forward. Selena saw everything. Without hesitation, she ran. She reached the terrified girl first. Wrapping one protective arm around the child, she shielded her as the hunter closed the final steps. Before the attacker could strike, Commander Cassian intercepted him with a powerful shield blow that sent the weapon spinning harmlessly across the marble. "Take her inside!" Cassian shouted. Selena guided the trembling child toward safety. Even in the middle of battle, she protected others before herself. Watching from across the courtyard, Orion felt the mate bond burn brighter, not because Selena possessed extraordinary power, because extraordinary compassion defined every choice she made. His wolf no longer questioned destiny, it embraced it. Then, the whispers changed. For the first time, everyone heard them. Not clearly. Only like distant voices carried upon the wind. The moon above the temple shone brighter despite the daylight. Silver light descended gently around Selena. The ancient moon spirit spoke through her. The covenant was never broken by weakness. It was broken by fear. Every warrior stopped. Every priest fell silent. Even Kalor lowered his sword for one stunned heartbeat. Malrek's face turned pale. He recognized those words. They came from the oldest forbidden records. Records he had ordered destroyed decades earlier. "No," he whispered. "She remembers." Selena slowly opened her luminous silver-blue eyes. She looked directly toward Orion. "I know how to save them." Her voice remained calm. "But if we fail today, every kingdom will lose the moon forever." The wind rose once more. War banners whipped violently overhead. The battle was no longer about a single kingdom. It had become a fight for the future of every werewolf alive. The temple bells rang. Not to celebrate victory, to witness judgment. General Kalor Dreadfang drove his sword into the marble floor and laughed as cracks raced toward the ancient altar. "You cannot save a covenant that died centuries ago." His voice echoed through the sanctuary. "The kingdoms have already chosen power over truth." Selena stepped toward the fractured altar. The whispers surrounding her became perfectly still. Then one gentle voice rose above every other. "Truth never dies. It only waits." Orion heard the words. So did every alpha standing within the temple. No one could deny the voice now. It carried neither anger nor command, only timeless certainty. The ancient moon spirit had awakened. High Regent Malrek refused to surrender, his face twisted with desperation. "You fools! She is not your salvation. She is the end of every throne." He turned toward the remaining loyal soldiers. "Kill the king! Take the girl!" A final wave of elite warriors rushed the sanctuary. Orion did not move. He simply raised his sword. "Stand!" His command rolled across the battlefield. Every royal wolf answered immediately. Shields locked together, spears lowered. The defenders advanced as one living wall. The attackers crashed against disciplined resistance. Steel rang through the temple. The struggle was fierce but controlled. Every defender fought to protect, not to destroy. Commander Cassian intercepted 3 enemy captains at once. His shield absorbed the first strike. His sword swept the second attack aside. The third opponent stumbled backward as royal guards surrounded him. "Lay down your weapons," Cassian ordered. "No more blood needs to be spilled." Several soldiers obeyed. Others continued fighting. Within moments, they were disarmed and restrained. Across the courtyard, Kalar charged Orion one final time. The enormous Alpha roared as moonlight reflected from his crimson armor. "You cannot rule with mercy," Orion answered calmly. "I do not rule through fear." Their swords collided. The impact shook the temple steps. Kalar attacked again, and again. Each strike grew more reckless, more desperate. Orion remained composed. He watched, waited, measured every movement. Then, Kalar overextended. One precise step, one controlled motion. Orion turned the attack aside. Kalar's sword spun from his hands and slid across the marble floor. The defeated Alpha dropped to one knee. The duel was over. Silence spread across the battlefield. Thousands watched. No one breathed. Kalar looked upward. "Finish it." Orion lowered his blade. "No." Confusion crossed the defeated Alpha's face. "You threatened innocent people. You invaded sacred ground. You betrayed the covenant every Alpha swore to defend. You will answer before every kingdom." Royal guards stepped forward and peacefully secured Kalar in heavy silver restraints. For many warriors watching, mercy carried more authority than execution ever could. Meanwhile, Malrek slipped quietly toward the ancient altar. Hidden beneath his robes rested a black crystal covered with forbidden runes. "If I cannot control the covenant," he whispered, "no one will." He thrust the crystal toward the glowing altar. Before it touched, Selena instinctively reached forward. The whispers united into one radiant voice. "Remember." Silver light flowed from her hands. The crystal stopped in midair. Its dark surface cracked, then dissolved into harmless silver dust. The temple brightened. Ancient runes illuminated every wall. Forgotten murals revealed themselves beneath centuries of stone. Every Alpha stared in awe. The history they had been taught had been incomplete. The High Elder slowly approached the restored altar. His voice trembled. "The first covenant." He traced glowing symbols with shaking fingers. "It was never about domination. It was about guardianship." He turned toward the gathered rulers. The moon never chose the strongest alpha. It chose the one willing to protect those with less power. A heavy silence settled over every noble present. Many lowered their eyes. Malrek collapsed to his knees. Years of carefully built deception had vanished in a single moment. No, this cannot be. Orion walked toward him. You erased history. You divided kingdoms. You turned fear into law. Malrek looked up. I protected civilization. You protected yourself. Orion answered. Royal guards placed iron restraints upon the former regent. He offered no resistance. His empire of lies had already fallen. The temple courtyard slowly grew quiet. Healers moved among the injured. Families reunited. Children emerged from shelter. For the first time that day, the sounds of fear gave way to relief. Only then did Orion turn toward Selena. She stood beside the restored altar. The silver light surrounding her slowly faded. The whispers softened until only she could hear them again. She looked exhausted. Days of fear. Years of loneliness. A lifetime of carrying a gift no one understood. It had all led to this moment. Orion crossed the remaining distance between them. His armor bore deep scratches. Dust covered his cloak. A thin line of blood traced one side of his face from the battle, yet his attention rested only upon her. He stopped, then quietly removed his crown. Without hesitation, Alpha King Orion Blackthorn lowered himself onto both knees before Selena. The entire temple gasped. No ruler had performed such an act in living memory. He bowed his head. I spent my life believing that strength meant standing above everyone. His voice was steady. You showed me that true strength kneels to protect what is sacred. He lifted his eyes. I cannot change the years you carried this burden alone. I cannot erase the loneliness others forced upon you. But if you will allow me, I will spend every tomorrow proving that you will never face another whisper by yourself. Tears filled Selena's silver blue eyes, not because a king knelt before her, because someone had finally believed her, without demanding proof, without calling her broken, without fearing her gift. She gently reached forward. Her fingertips rested against Orion's cheek. You were never chosen because you are the strongest alpha. She whispered. You were chosen because you were willing to listen. A warm smile slowly appeared across Orion's face. For the first time since the coronation began, the whispers fell completely silent. Not because they had disappeared, because they no longer needed to guide her. She was finally home. The next full moon rose over kingdoms forever changed. The temple of the first moon had been restored. Its ancient runes glowed once more beneath silver light, reminding every alpha that power had never belonged to the strongest. It had always belonged to the faithful. Leaders from every werewolf kingdom gathered beneath the sacred archway. For the first time in generations, they came not as rivals, but as guardians. The High Elder lifted the restored crown of the moon. This crown is no longer a symbol of authority. It is a promise. He gently placed it upon Selena's head. The ancient moon recognizes Selena Ashwyn as the first moon Luna of the renewed covenant. The entire temple bowed. Even the proudest Alpha Kings lowered their heads in respect. Orion stepped beside her. He did not stand before her. He stood with her. Taking her hand, he smiled. I once believed destiny was something a ruler controlled. You taught me that destiny is something we choose to honor. Selena looked toward the glowing moon above the temple. The familiar whisper returned one final time, soft, warm, filled with quiet joy. The covenant is restored. She smiled through grateful tears. I hear you. Then the voice faded peacefully into the moonlight. Not because it had abandoned her, because its purpose had finally been fulfilled. Across the courtyard, former enemies worked side by side, rebuilding what war had damaged. Old borders reopened. Families separated by generations reunited. Young wolves from different kingdoms laughed together without fear. The future no longer belonged to suspicion. It belonged to hope. Orion and Selena looked across the peaceful valley. No prophecy remained unfinished. No forgotten truth remained buried. Together, they would guide the kingdoms not through fear, but through compassion, courage, and trust. The moon had spoken. At last, the world had chosen to listen. As this story comes to an end, one question remains. If you had been one of the Alpha leaders, would you have trusted Selena's mysterious gift before seeing proof? Or would fear have led you to make the same mistake as those who doubted her? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this werewolf romance journey, please like this video, share it with someone who loves fantasy romance, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories of Alpha Kings, fated mates, and ancient destiny. Thank you for listening, and may courage, wisdom, and hope always guide your path until our next adventure together.